Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. You've tuned into the only multi-generational conversation on the roles of fathers in society. Welcome to Dads and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Dads and Beer. I am Chris Jordan, your host. On the road right now in our nation's capital, Washington, D-C, with a very, very good friend of mine that I've worked with for many years, Mr. Eric Vargas. How are you doing this evening, Eric?
Man, Chris, I'm doing great.
I'm so glad to finally be able to have you on one of my podcasts. We've talked about it for a long time, but so glad to finally be making it happen, and so glad that you're actually a part of Dads and Beer, because you're. This is, as the intro says, as far as I know, the only multi-generational podcast about fatherhood in America and what it is to be a dad in America nowadays. When we were kids. And you're slightly younger than me, but when we were kids, we had this idea of father, and what's changed with that? What's changed our idea? What are we trying to do? What are we striving to do as fathers? It's kind of what this show is all about. And we talk about that frequently whenever we're working and just hanging out, having drinks afterward and stuff like that, much like this evening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's just kind of get into it. I know you come from a deeply rooted family, very connected family like I do. Let's hear a little bit about that, a little bit about your family background. And
I'm from Houston, Texas, so I've grown up there my whole life. But I grew up just outside of Houston, a small little town called Mont Bellevue, with my mom, my dad, and my sister.
Yeah.
And it was awesome time and crazy time and stressful time and everything that being a teenager and growing up and going through high school and all that stuff and we were heavily involved in church growing up, did mission trips and
same here
and had a lot of Bible studies and there wasn't any day a week that we weren't in church.
Yep.
So I grew up with that foundation, but then I grew up with a dad who had a hard time at home growing up himself. He left home at 17 to join the military just to get away from it all.
Yeah.
So, I had that also coming from him. Him not knowing, he never had, his biological father around. So, him knowing how to be a father wasn't easy for him.
Yeah.
And so, I inherited a little bit of that. Just learning from him because he was my role model. So, growing up like that. But I mean, for the most part, it was just, the parts I remember fondly are the good times, and there's lots of them, and we still have good times. We're still super, super close-knit family.
Oh, yeah, every time I turn around, I see you guys at a barbecue competition or something like that. Even before we went out walking around the Capitol earlier, you're talking about how your dad just bought this huge barbecue rig for the barbecue team, and
we make all kinds of excuses to hang out together. Me and my dad run a DJ thing together. It's just we want to be around each other.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. That's what I strive for with Dalbus, quite honestly. I can't say I necessarily had that a lot with my father. I saw my dad every other weekend. He did his due diligence, all that kind of stuff. But when I turned 18, it was definitely one of those come to Jesus moments where it was like, hey, it's on you now, bro. There's no mom making me have to come here and hang out with you at Christmas. Things like that. You have to make the effort in life to want to be an active part of this relative.
Yeah, it's not a requirement anymore.
Yeah. And, I guess, I don't know, years ago I got to the point where, if relationships are not reciprocated for me, be it friendships, whatever, I got other things to do in life.
Yeah.
I got to put my energies elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's like I was telling you before we went out walking, how at 2 months I realized with my son that, okay, I'm not babysitting right now.
Yeah.
This is my receipt of purchase. I own this little thing. And, yeah, it's a mind trip, and it really is one of those like, what are you looking to do? And whenever I see you and your dad hanging out all the time on Facebook, I'm extraordinarily happy for that.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I find lacking in our modern day society.
For sure.
That I'm
Definitely.
trying to set up with Dalvis, even though he's 5 months old right now. I'm trying to make it.
Yeah, it's never too early to start instilling values that you see fit. And the way I got into fatherhood, I married a woman who had a 3-year-old daughter, so that kind of threw me into fatherhood immediately. I missed the baby stage and the growing up and that part of it, that bonding. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but for me to learn on the fly, how to be a dad and the right way to do things. And not saying by far that I've come near it, but it's it's a tough thing. There's not really a script, because every kid is different, every dad is different, every temperament is different. It's just so much to learn, to be in somebody's life. But I'm so blessed to have my 10-year-old daughter now. I've been with her since she was 3, and enjoy that time with her, and we've come up together, and now she's in gate classes and music memory and all this cool stuff. And I just talked to her not even 10 minutes ago about all the things she's doing in school now, and she's just so busy and so excited about it. And she's 10 years old, and she has her world right at her fingertips. And I like to think I had a little bit of part in that, and instilling those values in her, and bringing her up that way. But that it was just a shock to me, coming from growing up and not having any kids. I was in a marriage before I married this other lady, and we didn't have any kids, and it wasn't even on our radar back then. And coming into that situation was definitely a challenge, but I've loved every second of being her dad, and it's really cool. It's really cool too.
Well, it is definitely a different experience, and I remember as my baby was being born, as it was coming time, my aunt asked me, like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I just am right now. Like, I stopped trying to, I guess, kind of anticipate what things would feel like. Like, I just kind of want to experience the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to build it into something that it isn't, or anything like that. I want to be, like, ever present in that moment.
Yeah. And
the only way I can do that is to, like, just put nothing on it. So, like, the whole time that my baby was brewing, and we saw him, like, weekly, because of my wife's age, like, they threw crazy science at us. We got to see our baby, like, every week.
Wow.
It was freaking crazy.
That's awesome.
But, it was one of those, like, different experiences where it was an immediate mode shift in life, and the way that I think about things, the way that I go about doing things now. It wasn't even something that I thought about.
Yeah.
Like, it just happened like a karate reflex.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the rest of it comes so easily and so readily.
Yeah.
But for you, growing up, what were some of the best memories you remember having with your dad? What were some of the things that you want to do with your son that your dad did with you, that kind of stuff?
Oh man, my dad was so amazingly hands-on with me. He taught me everything, from fishing. That was one of his favorite things when I was younger. That's one of the favorite things we got to do together. He liked to wade fish, so I learned how to walk out in the water, those big waders.
Yeah.
I got stung by jellyfish and stung stingrays and all this different stuff, but it was just in that moment, just being with him, and I didn't really realize that spending time with him like that was different until talking about with my friends.
Yeah.
I did this with my dad. I did that with my dad. And I'm like, wow, you see your dad a lot, huh? You're with your dad a lot. And just those memories, looking back on that and thinking, those kids didn't have that. That's why they were so interested in what I was saying.
Well, and I think it's so often an issue in our society where kids just want to get away.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to get away, and they want to leave that, and they want to leave it behind. And I've always kind of questioned why. Like what kind of horrible upbringing did you have that, like, you want no part of any of it for the rest of it?
Mm-hmm.
And I fully understand. Like I wanted to do the same thing whenever I went off to college, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was always family. There was always like it was the one steady thing, and I guess it was just culturally the way I was brought up to think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's all you got to depend on.
Oh yeah,
is your family.
Oh yeah. I mean, till this day, my dad's still my best friend.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody I would ever consider better friends with me than my dad. Like literal friends. Like I could tell my dad anything, and he could tell me anything. I mean, he's still like that, but he's still my dad, and I would listen to what he says. You know, he's not just like a buddy. Like, give me some advice. No, like, teach me a lesson. You know.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always enjoyed. I didn't enjoy it in my younger years. My dad taught me some lessons that I didn't want to learn at those times, but
yeah.
But now I look back on it, and I'm thankful for every single one of them. You know.
Yeah.
Because every one of them is panning out as I get older, and I go through the same things with my kids. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah,
you know, seeing it from the other side, like yelling at myself.
I remember and I remember it was torturous for me because I was not an athletic kid. I played sports, but I was not like the best athlete. I was a gangly, beanpole of a kid with no coordination whatsoever. But every weekend that my dad had me, before we'd go out to our basketball game or flag football, whatever, he had this plaque from What It Takes to Be Number One, the first Super Bowl speech, Vince Lombardi, great coach, and everything else, and it's basically like it was like read this out loud, like be ready, and yeah, it was what he gave his first Super Bowl team the speech of what it takes to be number one. Like there is no room for second place. There's a game out there played by people that like second place, and it's a game that's played by losers for losers. Wow. Like
that's incredible.
Like harsh reality, but like bringing it down. And like I remember like sometimes like crying, reading the thing, like I don't want to read it. I don't want to read it. And now there's like a copy of it hanging in my kitchen. Every time I go to stop by it, I stop and I read it because it is one of those like like you got to stay focused. You got to stay on top of things
for sure, man.
It was, and I remember one of the moments where I actively called my dad and apologized. Me and my girl had gotten in a big fight in Maine. And the words came out of my mouth. I just want a reason, not an excuse. Give me a reason for what you did, not an excuse. I don't want to hear it. And it was like, oh my God, I just heard my father come out of my mouth.
Exactly.
Like, oh my God. Yeah. So it was like, I'm sorry for anything that I did that ever made you have to say that.
I've had those conversations with my dad several times during the recent years, and my dad's an emotional dude, so you start talking about stuff like that, it get that little itch in his throat, and the tears, and I can't help it too. I'm over there choking up. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for teaching me those lessons, even though I didn't want to learn them.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. I think all too often, though, in our society, we do see the father as the disciplinarian amongst things, and not so much the loving, tender person.
Yeah.
I
mean, look back. I mean, we were kids, maybe a little bit before our time, but The Christmas Story.
Yeah.
I mean, that was quintessential. That's why people love it, because it's so relatable.
Oh, yeah.
How the dad was such a strict guy, and the mom was the loving and would, keep the secrets for the boys just so the dad wouldn't lash out and, get onto them.
Yeah.
And I just, that you've seen that. I've seen that slowly, dissolve as it's gotten, we've gotten older, but it's still a core of a lot of the way people father, that type of fathering, that hardcore.
Absolutely.
Don't bother me when I get home from work type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's my dinner?
Exactly.
All that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm the one cooking dinner most of the time.
Same here, man. I love it. I love cooking dinner.
And, I guess that's what I look at is what can I do to, I guess, not necessarily buffer my child from society, but help them better understand the scope, the wider view of things. Because I think that's where so many kids are getting lost now. So many people are getting lost in minutia and not seeing a bigger picture, not seeing their place in things, not seeing necessarily even where they belong
for
in society. you know,
For sure.
and even having skill sets when you're younger, you know, like I don't know. Do you go about instilling any skill sets specifically in your children?
You know, I have a 5-year-old or a 5-year-old. He's going to be 6 coming up in the next 4 months, and he just started kindergarten.
All right.
So working with him and before he started school, we were kind of relaxed with him, because we had our daughter. She'd have to try. There was no teaching her. She asked you, "Hey, how do I do this? Hey, how do I do that?" And he was more imaginative. She was very, very practical with everything.
Yeah.
And he's more creative and imaginative. And so we didn't focus him on a lot of, basic skills he knows his alphabet and his colors, but we didn't teach him how to write his name before school and all that kind of stuff. Because I figured, no, he's going to learn that stuff. But looking back on it now, I thought maybe I should have done something more like that.
Well, I mean, even going as far as like how your dad used to take you out fishing.
Oh,
you know, that kind of stuff. Like I was 7 years old and I was hunting.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. That's what I mean by instilling a skill set. Like he comes over and
for sure
helps dad fix the toilet.
The thing that we've instilled in him and we still do till this day is music.
Yeah,
that's one thing my family's huge on. I mean, we had a family, and talk about families together. We had a family band. It was me, my dad, my father-in-law, my mom, my mother-in-law, my wife, her sister. Just a big family band. We used to jam at the house every week, 2 or 3 times a week. And he was there. He sat in on every practice. He was there banging a tambourine or banging a drum or something on the side. And there's more often than not when we are a family, we got a free night, like a Friday night, Saturday night, that we get to stay up late and hang out together. We don't watch movies. We don't play games. We turn on YouTube and we search music videos. We show them old rock and roll, old soul, old,
cool.
Teach them about, the history and different types of music and, all the way to EDM to old country, just whatever.
Well, more of a cultural education.
Yeah. And he has just engulfed himself in music.
That's great.
He's 5 years old and he's asking for an electric guitar for Christmas. That's at the top of his list. So
nice.
I want him, and he dances like crazy. He's just crazy about anything to do with music, and he's just passionate about it. He told me the other day as he was getting out of the van, he said, "Daddy, I'm sold out." I said, "What? What are you talking about?" He said, My concert is sold out." He's in his head on the way to the school that night. It was a family night. He was imagining going to his concert. It was sold out stadium.
Right.
And that's just, that's one thing that I'm big into music. My wife is big into music, and we just, we see a big musical future for him. So that's kind of where we lead him to, is that creative side. Yeah. More than the sit down and focus on this. That type of thing. We just, he's a free spirit, and I don't want to quench it. But I got to find that line. Where
you got to find
quenching it and then letting him run things.
You got to find a way to direct it. Yeah. You got to find a way to funnel it properly and to take that energy and focus it towards something. Because I mean it'll help him a lot more being focused on that one thing than to have all of that energy trying to be applied to all of his other studies and everything else. It just leads to wonkiness in the brain as a creative person. And that's something that I can definitely say that Amy and I are looking forward to, is instilling that adventurous spirit of creativity in somebody. I can't wait until I can sit and teach Dalbus how to solder. That kind of stuff. I still say that his first chore will probably be feeding the chickens and taking care of the chickens.
Definitely.
Because that's one I think it's a good one. It's nice and easy. They're a low maintenance animal, like just as low maintenance as a dog or a cat. Except you see a reward for taking care of the animal, and not just like company. They're company too. Yeah. Like they'll call for you and come to you, all kinds of stuff. But they give you eggs. Yeah. And I think that's one of those that instilling that in him, that look, see, reward comes from your work. Something, you've gotten something for what you've put in now.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
I think music is definitely a route to go with that as well, because it's that self fulfillment. It's that understanding that you have created something.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's. I mean, he already writes his own music. I mean, he comes up to us and it's in original lyrics. It's original tune. I mean, it's just like we're blown away by what he does. You know, he comes up. I mean, he was in this phase probably about 5 months ago where he just walked around freestyle rapping everything. He would see something and he'd rap about it for like 4 or 5 bars, and we
Rock
were
on.
just like, what? And it sounded like he was making sense. You know, it wasn't just like nonsensical
My
thoughts. It
Fruit
was
Loops, yo.
yeah,
My
it was
Fruit
just
Loops.
going off. I'm not gonna attempt to freestyle, but you know, he had it full.
I just did.
I will beatbox behind him, you know, in
Yeah.
my simple beatbox way.
That's it.
But yeah, no, I let him go. You know, I've never, if it's adorable enough for me to want to just crack up at, it's everything inside of me not to do it because I don't want to embarrass him.
Yeah.
I want him to feel free to always sing whatever he wants to, rap whatever he wants
Yeah.
to. I never want to snuff that flame out. You know.
Yeah.
I want him to feel free, no matter what anybody thinks. You know, your daddy and mommy think you're amazing.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. And I think that's really the most important thing that a lot of people didn't get for a long time from their parents, because it just wasn't the parenting that went on. You know,
Yeah.
It wasn't the parenting that happened back in the day. All that kind of stuff. In our parents' time,
Yeah.
there wasn't a whole lot of "you're amazing."
Yeah,
You
definitely
know,
not.
and I think that's absolutely necessary. I really do. I kind of draw the line whenever it comes to like participation trophies
Oh yeah.
and that kind of junk.
Yeah.
No, you need to win to get a trophy.
For
Not
sure.
everybody gets a trophy. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
aren't all
on
special.
board with that one.
Yeah, yeah. But definitely trying to make them feel understood and, like you said, comfortable enough to express that creativity when it comes about.
Yeah.
Is utmost. I used to teach 4, 5, and 6-year-olds for a couple years. Yeah, like there's just this magical age of starting to understand stuff,
Mhm.
starting to kind of socially understand things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I hope you enjoy that age with
Oh,
me.
it's the transition from that stage where he didn't quite get it, didn't quite understand that age where he's still developing his cognition,
Yeah,
and then there's a moment in there where you see that switch flip,
yeah,
and you're like, oh, this is gonna be fun.
yeah.
They're starting to get stuff. You can teach them things, and it sticks. You teach them how to tie their shoes. You teach them how to do, all these different things, and it just, you watch them every day just wake up, and they're a different kid every day. And it's just it's so fun to watch him develop and become the cool little dude that he's becoming, and it's exciting. It's exciting.
What has been so far your favorite thing about fatherhood that you found?
Man, my favorite thing about fatherhood is just feeling the love that those kids have for me. I love, killing myself to give them everything that they want. Not necessarily everything they need. I want to do a little bit more than that, and I'll fly to the moon and back for them, at any given time. But that moment when they look at you with those eyes and they say those words, "I love you," just for no reason. They just come up to you and they just love you. It's just radiating off of them. They want to be with you. That's just that moment that it's just the whole world's right, man. No matter what's going on here or there, when those kids look at you with those eyes and they say they love me, it's like nothing ever I've ever felt before.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. The first time my stepdaughter ever asked if she could call me daddy was just like, I'd cry right now if I let myself.
Yeah.
But those moments, the first time my son ever said, that he loves me, it's just those moments that stick with you. They'll drive you crazy, man. They'll make you want to push him back in, sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, those moments right there make everything else worth it. Yeah, that's what I dream about. My favorite thing to do is my wife will go lay with my daughter and put her to sleep, and I'll lay with my son and I'll read to him, or we'll just talk, or we'll tell stories back and forth, And that's like the highlight of my day, man. Just getting to lay with him and
Yeah.
be in that moment, you know, that nighttime where he's tired and he's vulnerable and he's there with you and he just falls asleep because he's so comfortable
Yeah.
with you being in there. I love that moment. That's dad stuff, man.
Yeah, exactly. What have you found so far to be the most challenging part of fatherhood in your 7 years?
Most challenging for me is communicating with kids that don't fully understand where you want to go with things. You know, that's the most challenging thing to me is
breaking it down.
Yeah, breaking it, having them understand because I know they can go to school and learn something and then they know it forever.
Yeah.
But if I tell them something or teach them something and they don't understand the way I'm explaining it, it creates a domino effect.
Yeah.
And I would like to know better how to communicate with my kids. That's probably the most frustrating thing is communicating or having them understand why I say the things I say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just because I don't want you to eat a candy bar right now. It's that it's 8:00 and it's your bedtime. You can't have a candy bar. When they don't understand that because it's all about them, it's what they want.
Yeah.
And that's the most difficult part. But I mean, other than that, I mean that's going to be in everything. Every kid's going to have that phase in that stage.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's been the hardest part of being a parent. The sad times, the bad times when they're scared, when they're that's I don't want to say that's good for me, but that's like go time. That's like dad time. Let's put it on. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. That's why I want to be that guy who swoops in when they're hurt and they're sad. But when I'm trying to explain something to them and they don't get it, and I tell them no, do it like this, or no, don't say that, say this. And they don't get it, it's just like, that's, why can't you understand?
Yeah.
Well, because you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And why can't my head understand that? Because I'm not there yet. I'm still learning.
Why can't my much larger brain break it down so a much smaller brain can understand it?
I was there once. Let me remember how you're thinking. I can't do it.
And that is hard. That is hard to explain large concepts in small parcels like that.
Mm-hmm.
Small understandable packets.
Yeah.
Now, when you first found out that you were going to be a father, even with the stepdaughter,
mm-hmm.
What was your first emotion? What came to you first? Was it?
Man, it may sound weird, but I always wanted to be a dad. Like, my sister always dreamt about, that was her play. Like, she'd dream about being a mom. She'd play, kids and this and that.
Yeah.
But because of how my dad was with me, I couldn't wait to have me. I thought it was pretty cool when I was a kid. I couldn't wait to have me as a kid, be my buddy.
Yeah.
And so... I forgot where we were going.
That's all right. What was the first emotion that you had?
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. So when I found out, I knew my wife had a daughter when we started dating.
Sure.
But when we took that next step, and like I told you, that moment when she first asked if she could call me dad, that was like that moment for her and me.
Yeah.
It was like that, the angel singing type of, moment, where my ears were warm. It was just, that emotion just overwhelmed me. That a little person could want me to, raise them, to be their dad, to love them like that. It was just an overwhelming, like my dad does and like I do all the time. I bawled my eyes out. I was just like, you call me whatever you want. And it was just one of those moments, But man, when I found out I was having a son, it was man, out of body experience.
Yeah.
Like you see in the cartoons when they explode and you just see the shoes there. That's how I felt inside. It was
Same
just my
here.
shoes right there, and black smoke coming out of them because I hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Now, as we close out, what is the one thing that you hope to impart to your children? What's the one thing that you hope they take from you?
The one thing that I hope they take from me is that I just want them to always be themselves, to be who they are and who they want to be, not who the teachers tell them to be or who society tells them to be. Be who they want to be, because I feel like growing up, I let other people dictate what I became or what how I grew up.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want my kids to feel that way. I want them, I want them to have discipline and respect for their elders and stuff like that, and to understand authority and where that comes from. But I also want them to think for themselves and be free and be able to express themselves to the fullest extent of who they want to be. I never want anything to quench that. They both have amazing potential. I see them doing amazing things if we just let them do it. And not try to tell them to do something else.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So, I never pressure them to pick an elective or something they want to do. If they want to do it, they're going to do it.
My son will take squash if it's available. No question.
That sounds like a good idea.
No question.
Now, will he eat squash?
Or you get the ring hand.
That's the question.
Both. Yes.
That's the major. We can do a whole other podcast on will they eat squash?
Will they eat it? Rhubarb. Only in pie form.
Pureed prunes. What? Terrible.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being on this episode with me, man. We talk about this stuff all the time, but to me, fatherhood is just one of the most not just important structures for kids to be exposed to, but it really is the foundation of what we start to see as a structure in society.
Total.
And I think that we bear a certain responsibility for that as fathers, and I think at the same time we need to start being the ones to show vulnerability amongst things.
For sure.
Because, unfortunately, the hard facade of fatherhood is not necessarily the best facade of fatherhood, and it's not necessarily the most functional.
Yeah.
And it leads to a lot of dysfunction. So,
for sure.
Thank you so much for opening up about all that tonight.
Definitely, man.
And until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and if you can't be good at it, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Dads and Beer. To listen to our audio streams and chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for both Android and iDevices, available on the Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.